Hi, welcome back to Wild Speculations. I'm Daniel.
I'm Scott.
Tonight we're talking about Exandria Unlimited Kymal, Parts
Yes.
1 and 2. I was a little worried about trying to cover a two-parter in one go. But after the first half of the first episode, I was less worried.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's good or bad that Abria begins with essentially an inner monologue.
Yeah.
Like, Liam is the only regular cast member that we get that from. And I think it is largely because of his love of Shakespeare.
Mm-hmm.
That he likes to deliver soliloquies. His Twitch promo ad is a soliloquy.
Yeah.
But he's always very quick about it, and always I don't know, succinct. I don't know how to explain it. But her bit with Dorian was 8 minutes,
Oh.
I think. And what really confused me about it is there was an NPC that was going to be in the episode that was on the airship with him.
Mm-hmm.
That most of this could have been done with.
Yeah. An actual conversation.
Yeah.
But he was asleep, so.
For months. Yeah. So that sort of from a storytelling perspective, that sort of took me out of it immediately. The time skip.
Hibernation, yes.
The time skip didn't bother me. Although.
No, I mean, when they introduced one to the intro, came back, and it was her and Robbie, I really assumed it was, how are you and your brother getting through Amon to Gilmore, and it's going to be some kind of like skills challenge or some kind of role play.
Yeah, and I expected more drama out of that. Just because there's a real priceless moment potential when they get to Amon, or in the moment that Dorian has to tell his brother, look, I have a price on my head here. And,
we talked about that when Cyrus got the price on it,
And we didn't get that. And they...
Yeah, the time skip wasn't the big deal. The big deal was that we took time with, for me, was that we took time with them, but didn't get any of that interaction.
Yeah.
Like, if they had just, started with everybody but Morgan, because they met her later, that's fine. And just, you guys have, you made it across, you've come together in Kymal. What are you doing at the casino?
Yeah. I just think, those 8 minutes, it would have been nice to have that, oh, so you have a price in your head too. It would have united the brothers more, I think. But I have a theory why it didn't happen.
Okay.
And it's because, for whatever reason, Abria didn't want to play Cyrus. Because she played him as much as Matt has played Mister.
Yeah, he definitely seemed dumbed down.
Yeah.
He went from basically not a intelligent, but an average intelligence, low wisdom character to low intelligence, and basically over characterized himbo.
Yeah.
I don't think he's just a normal commoner stat block because he was involved with the group when they found him.
Yeah, I think
I forgot the name of the group.
If he were to be an NPC stat block, I would peg him as a noble.
Okay.
But I think he probably has rogue levels.
Yeah, I mean he's probably. I don't know that he's as high.
No.
But he's probably got. Yeah, I would say probably rogue. Like a strength-based rogue type.
Yeah. Or he's a bard, maybe even. Just a different college, or no college at all. But I didn't. There was never any inspiration going out.
Especially when he was like,
Oh, and there was
trying
the moment.
To encouraging. He's like, "Are you trying to inspire me? Do you feel inspired?" No. Well, didn't work. I tried. That to me says not bard levels.
Yeah. But yeah.
We do get a minimal look back at what the others have been doing. Theodora's been out looking for her sister by herself, and Opal and Derek's have been hanging out in Byroden. I'm surprised they were hanging out in a single town.
Yeah.
The changes to Opal, seems like they would have been run out of a few towns, even if it was her hometown.
Yeah.
It'd be one of those, we're going to run you out. Well, we were leaving anyway. We don't want to be here. You didn't run. You can't fire me. I quit.
Yeah. Although with Mask of Many Faces, she's keeping an illusion up all the time.
That's true. She can be whoever.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we get a little bit of... I noticed the stat block because Theodora was 5th level when EXU ended. She was higher level than the rest of the party.
Yeah.
Now she's 6th level. She's the same level as the rest of the party. And she went from a 17 strength to a 21 strength in that level, which tells me at some point in looking for her sister, she found a belt of giant strength.
Yeah, and my daughter noticed that on the card, and I usually barely pay any attention to the cards as they slide by. And then the next time it slipped, I was like, "Oh no, you're right."
Yeah, I was
like, maybe it's a transposition. But you said her strength was...
Yeah, because I saw the 21, I was like, her strength wasn't that high. So I went and looked up the card on crit roll stats, and it was 17.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But that makes sense to me.
Yeah, and we find that Opal is chain packed. Not right away, but, she has a familiar.
Yeah. But not an enhanced one.
Not an enhanced one. She has Ted 2, the spider.
Which I find interesting because one of the things that an imp can turn into is a spider.
Right. Which, yeah.
So that was interesting to me.
Opal used her ASI at 4 to raise her Dex and her Charisma 1 each to bump them up a modifier. Because they're...
Which puts her Charisma at 20, right?
No, her Charisma is now at 18. Her Dex is at 16. So, +3, +4.
Yeah.
Dariax's stats did not change at all. He took the Warcaster feat.
Yeah.
And we know from Campaign 3 that Dorian took Magic Initiate Sorcerer. So we got the Chromatic Ore when they hit 4th level.
Yeah. And we saw Dariax using Warcaster in this episode.
Yeah, the part 1.
In the fight at the end, part 1, his Sacred Flaming as a reaction for his opportunity attacks and advantage on his concentration save for less. Yeah, Fortune of Fools was definitely on display.
Luck of the Idiots, I think they called it.
Yes. Yeah, and it's one of those things that you couldn't plan it that way.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, that's perfect. It fits his character, fits his personality, helps explain why he's always willing to do those things, because they pay off. Why not?
Yeah.
It reminds me of in 3.5 when they did the rogue specific book. They introduced luck feats, where you could do different things, and then they had a prestige class called Fortune's Fool that was all based on the luck points and being lucky. And I really liked it because I just loved that whole Bill Murray character kind of thing.
Now we just have Halfling and the lucky feat.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few class view features you can dip in and out of, but you're going to be low level and everything.
Yeah, for sure. The thing that really, I guess let's talk about our new player, Morgan.
Yes.
Gets introduced while they are in the hotel. She's a bartender. She's tending bar.
Yes.
As a means to case the joint.
Yeah, she's a Lagomore rogue, arcane trickster.
Yeah.
Has to be being a rogue with the spell slot she has.
Yes. And she straight up says Mage Hand Ledgermane.
Yeah.
In episode 1.
Yeah.
I think. So yeah.
Now, the thing that stuck out to me was her name. So, and could that be a family name? Could she be related to Fern? Now, the reason I asked that, she's from the Feywild.
Yeah.
Her name is Morrigan. Fern's grandma's name is Morgan. I don't think she's playing Fern's grandma.
No.
And she also doesn't really remember leaving the Feywild. Fern only has vague recollections of leaving the Feywild for some purpose.
Yeah.
And in the Tal'Dorei Reborn campaign setting, when it talks about the Feywild and Fey creatures, it specifically says that it's not necessarily distinct races, that the form you take is dependent on your feelings, emotions, and even traumatic or milestone events can change that form. And it says, 2 pixie parents could have 2 children, and the siblings could be a sprite and a satyr.
Yeah.
So it's very possible that Fern the Fawn and Morgan the Lagomore are cousins or siblings or something. I don't think siblings because she had a different last name and I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But could be cousins, and she could be named after the grandma that they share.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's certainly possible, and I think it's a question that we will probably never get an answer to.
Probably. In my headcanon, they are.
Too much has to align for that to
Not really.
come up.
All it takes is for, and I'm drawing a blank on her name, but her to guest star on the main campaign, on Campaign 3. It's literally all it takes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. Yeah.
I mean, for them to appear together in an EXU and explain that, yes, that takes a lot of setup.
Yeah.
But
that's fair. Dorian tells her about his friend Fern. She goes to find Fern.
Yep.
Okay. And that's, Rose, your question is exactly why I started running the scenario into my brain.
Yeah.
Because, we talked about how the theory is they're going to have a guest star either every arc or every other arc.
Yeah. Or a large chunk of an arc.
Yeah. And they're building their stable, as it were.
Yeah.
Once we finally go to the Fave, it's possible.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, they both go check in with Grandma at the same time.
Where the episode lost me.
Okay.
And the whole pair of episodes, really. But episode, when I sort of checked out on the episode emotionally, was when it became apparent to me that this heist was on rails. I don't know if you noticed it.
I did.
And I know for you, that's a big, you're out.
Yeah. I mean...
And for me, it was immediately. I was,
For me, at least give me the illusion of the sandbox.
Yeah.
Don't make the rails obvious.
Yeah.
It's like the picture of the one person entering one side that says cleric and the other one entering the one side that says warlock, and both of them on the back say having a sugar daddy,
Yeah. I think there is a way to do a heist in a short time frame. I don't think having it on rails is how you do that.
Yeah.
And Abria even mentioned the fact that she had gated something behind a die roll, and that meant that they weren't going to get it.
Yeah, because
and
they have notoriously
sort of,
bad rolls with those.
Yeah, and she was sort of, I don't know, kicking herself. I don't know if it's quite that much, but...
See, and to me, it almost felt like she was, I don't know if bragging is the right, or mocking them for their low rolls. It was like, I got information for you, but you're never going to get it because I intentionally put it somewhere where you guys have a hard time getting it.
Fair, yeah.
Which to me is also another thing that greatly turns me off.
Mm.
If you want them to have information, don't lock it behind a die roll.
Yeah.
If you need to lock it behind a die roll for whatever reason, have it be something that it's not tied to a specific person or place if they need it, to give them another chance to find it in another place.
Or you make it a group check, which increases the likelihood that somebody's going to get the number that you want. Correct.
If it's something that they need to work for, which there are cases where the information needs to be worked for.
Yeah.
It's fine to make it take a while to get said information by locking it behind a die roll. It is not okay to deny vital, information because you locked it behind a die roll.
Yeah. And for me, I think it was right before break. I think it was right after they decided we're going to steal his keys and break into the penthouse.
Yeah, I do like Abria. I'm not trying to trash on her. The locked die roll is just a thing for me, like blatant rails. She has a lot of fun. Her players seem to have a lot of fun. I'm all for that. Fun is the bottom line.
Yeah.
So please, I don't want the internet thinking that I dislike Abria or disapprove.
Yeah.
We just have a little bit different DMing styles.
Yeah.
One thing I want to talk about real quick before we get too much into the heist, going back to the introductions. Opal, and even jumping over to Campaign 3, Fern. Maybe not so much Fern, but they're kind of chaotic evil.
Yeah.
They're very much how you play a chaotic evil character in a campaign. I was going to say lawful evil for Opal at first, and I think that lines up with the Spider Queen more, because she's lawful, right?
Yes.
But no, there's nothing about Opal that's lawful.
Yeah.
And when she's just like, yeah, I'm taking this. She's like, so are you trying to do this subtly while she's staring? No, I'm just staring her down and I'm like, this is mine now.
Hey, turns out evil corrupts.
Yeah.
And powers from evil corrupt efficiently.
Yeah, she...
Yeah, the whole power is independent. Yeah, no. But my thing, before the break, as they were beginning their initial stages of planning the heist after the PC Halo brings them together.
Yes.
Was this nephew guy, yeah, he sounds like he might be kind of a prick, but he might be easily manipulatable.
Yeah.
And like, if I were at the table, my plan would have been Dorian or Cyrus. You guys go talk to him and recruit him. He becomes the inside man.
Yeah. Well,
look, you want to be a star, you could go on the road.
Yes.
All you have to do is take the money from your dad.
Yeah. I mean, and when 3 of your 5 players are charisma-dependent classes, why do you not try?
Yeah. But I think it's because the rails.
Yeah.
It was stated, this guy has a key, and you know, the blueprints, like it was all sort of laid out.
Or even if they had just seduced him to distract him, and then someone else, the rogue, sneaks in and gets that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if they just played it that way.
Yeah.
That would have been where my brain would have gone.
Yeah. One thing that Abria was good on, which isn't always easy, is her breaks were timed almost the exact time in both episodes, just around the 90-minute mark, plus or minus 8 minutes.
Yeah.
And only like between the 2 episodes, plus or minus 3 minutes, I think. So I have to give her props for that. But the end timer, I think, was ignored in both cases, with the second episode being almost 5 hours.
Yeah. And in defense of the second episode, it was a 2-parter. It had to get wrapped up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
They had to go as long as it took the players to either get caught or escape.
That's fair. And yeah, like how much longer would it have been if there would have been another combat? If Amy hadn't have come up with the major image idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do see the vestige awaken.
Yeah.
She has a conversation with Wolf and agrees to be her champion. There's some discussion about rehabbing her image and, making her seem like she's helps the good-hearted.
Yeah, and speaking of conversations, we do have the commiserate moment between Morgan, Dariax, and Opal when Morgan asks, "Do you guys ever hear voices in your heads?" Like, actually, yes. And all I could think of was Metatron in Dogma when he appears.
Yep.
And he's like, whenever someone claims they're speaking to God, they're speaking to me. Or they're talking to themselves.
Well,
Yeah, it's so good. One thing that I thought was hilarious is Matt. And in episode 1 is when I noticed it. And it's when, the first time I noticed it was when Dorian casts motivational speech.
Mm-hmm.
And Caduceus used this in Campaign 2 when they were about to go into battle with the Awakened Nonagon, I think. I think it was after he merged.
Yeah.
They had a moment where Caduceus is like stealing them, I think. Or it might be before they go and confront him initially. Anyway, but it's a minute casting time.
Mm-hmm.
And Taliesin says, I hope you'll let that count as a minute speech as I cast this.
Yeah.
So when Dorian does it as basically an action, Matt's eyes just start looking, and he's trying to find a place to look that isn't the camera, that isn't Abria, that isn't Robbie. So his eyes are just darting all over the place. And that is his tell.
Yeah.
When he notices a rule is being incorrectly applied, whether it's action economy, somebody's getting an extra thing, or spell casting either components or casting time. It was. I was just like, oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, I initially noticed it when he cast Mending, and I got so that whole scene. Like, I was into that scene because Dorian, Bronte, whoever, and Cyrus, total Top Gun vibes there. They have a playbook to hit on women, and it's just like when Tom is like, I don't know, she's like, oh no, not that one. Let's not run that play. She loves that love and feeling, and he knows exactly what, they have a playbook to pick up women.
Yeah,
just like the Goose and Maverick from Top Gun, and I was just like, okay.
Yeah. I didn't think about that, but now that you say that, yeah. Another question that I had, and this is more about episode 2. Because episode 2, they're now truly into the heist. And we saw it used in episode 1 once. It was very quick and brushed over.
And I really like it.
The coins.
Yes.
To do a flashback, basically. To plan for this moment.
It is an excellent way to minimize spending 4 or 5 hours or 2 sessions planning a heist. And that's something we've both talked about. They spent way too long talking in circles, going over a plan. The coins help mitigate that.
I hadn't thought about that. That's a purpose that they serve.
That's the thought that came to my mind, and I loved it. And I was like, next time there's a heist type thing, when I'm running a game, I will use that mechanic.
Because I was annoyed. And, like...
I mean...
And it's... You know, I enjoyed Magic users in AD&D. I didn't mind... It's kind of a pain in the butt, but I didn't mind so much Fancy and Magic. Because there's an element of that pre-planning.
Right.
And knowing. And playing Shadowrun, all of the, like...
So
casing the joint is a big part of that.
The thing about that is sometimes, especially if you're playing like a wizard, 20 intelligence. Most of us don't have a 20 intelligence. 10, 11 is average, which means 10 is like 100 IQ. Basically, if you multiply your intelligence stat by 10, that's your character's IQ. Yeah. Most of us don't have a 200 IQ. And this is a way to also help make that more believable. Here's a coin I actually had this plan because someone with a 20 of intelligence would have thought that through, even though I didn't realize because I've only got 120 intelligence or what IQ. So for me, that's okay.
That's fair.
That's how I see that playing out. Which yes, and I love the whole what am I going to choose today? You know what?
But well, see, and the fun for me about a heist is casing the joint and covering all the possibilities. Yeah. That to me is the fun of a heist, is casing, planning, and then like the going through with it for me is about dice rolls and how the plan goes wrong. And finding fun in how the plan goes wrong. But the big fun for me is planning it. And that's why when I design a castle or any kind of place that my players are infiltrating, I don't build in a way. I don't build in, well, you know, it's up to you guys. So, and sometimes you'll ask a question, is there this? I didn't think about that. Make a roll.
Well, and see, and that's the thing. Just in the same way that the players will always come up with something the DM didn't think of, the DM will always plan something that the players will never think of.
It's fair.
You know? And this is really kind of just a bridging of those two missing ideas.
Yeah, no, that's fair. The other thing, I don't know, like, there's a lot of back and forth on Twitter about, well, not just Twitter, but Facebook, any discussion thread. Yeah. About whenever somebody says, I'm hacking D&D to play X. Mm-hmm. Well, that universe already has a role-playing game. Why don't you play that? Or, why are you hacking D&D? It doesn't support it. This system supports this kind of play so much better. And, like, if you're going to bring in the Blades in the Dark mechanic, why not play Blades in the Dark?
So, my response to that would be the reason why if I look at one of those threads, I immediately leave them. I don't even participate in that. Okay. Is because who are you to tell me my fun is wrong? If I see a mechanic that's going to make my game run a little smoother, or I think will provide more fun for my players, who cares if I add a rule from another game? Yeah. The role-playing books say, use what works for your table, throw out the rest.
It's fair.
Optional rules are exactly that. Rules you can add for the fun of your table. Yeah. If I want to borrow a mechanic from another game because I think it's going to make my game more fun, okay. If my players don't have fun, I'm going to drop that mechanic. But, I mean...
Yeah. Well, I mean, I
you-
import too. So
I was gonna say, I've helped a little bit with feedback, but the rest of our group, mainly you, did the World of Darkness hack for Star Wars.
Yeah.
There's a ton of Star Wars games. Why didn't you just play those if you want to go that route?
Yeah. Like I say, I am not innocent of this either.
It's because it's what's fun for your table. Who is anyone to tell you your fun is wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't break the game. And I agree with you, Rose, about it can get hand wavy. I would probably be a little bit stricter about how you use it and not just granting you whatever you wanted. More strict than Abria was about it.
Yeah.
If I used it at my table, but I would definitely use it. Yeah, it's got to be something that logically could have happened. We're going to play it out. You may get screwed over. You may get what you need, but it may have cost you something you might need later,
Yeah.
Or
your plan is exposed to somebody.
Like when Dariax went to get the bags in the flashback, she was going to give them to him for free. I wouldn't have done that. I would have charged him for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want these? You're going to have to pay for them. Yeah, you can find these things, but nobody's just going to give you a bunch of bags. So,
yeah.
But
and if you roll well enough for RP, you could get them at a discount.
Exactly. You could get them at a discount. Heck, you could steal them if you want to.
Yeah.
Go for it. You run the risk of getting caught.
Yeah. So, the other thing that was a little jarring was the Chroma Conclave Spa.
Yeah, that... And so that was problematic for me. I think that was the thing I had the hardest time with in both episodes.
Okay.
And you hit it on the head when we were talking at dinner, when you said there's no 9/11 themed restaurants in New York.
No.
And I saw someone point that out online, and that someone's response was Kymal wasn't hit directly, and they're kind of a criminal town, so it makes sense they'd be more irreverent. Arizona wasn't hit by any of the planes in 9/11. It still affected people here. They still knew people that...
Yes, and so I have some contradictions in me on this. On one hand, that kind of thing I don't think would fly.
Right.
But at the same time, I also have a problem with all the emotional cutting that we do every year over 9/11.
Yeah. I agree.
Wounds don't heal if you keep opening them.
So, for me, I would have had no problem if it was just the Dragon's Lair Spa, and it was themed off the color dragons, and they didn't call it the Chroma Day Spa, and have it named after those specific dragons.
Yeah.
That's all that had to be done, and I would have been 100% on board with it.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, while I think it's bad to engage in all of the rehashing of the emotional trauma every year, it's quite another to minimize or cash in on it.
Yeah.
It's been 70 years since Pearl Harbor, and no one has a Akagi restaurant.
Right. So...
and even if, the argument about, well, Kymal wasn't hit, New York and Chicago hate each other. There's nothing in Chicago.
Yeah.
Vegas with all of their landmarks that they've built from all around the world. They don't have a Bin Laden household.
Yeah. There's no cave system themed
Yeah.
restaurant or
Yeah.
bar.
Yeah.
I mean, there probably is somewhere, but it probably has no connection to an Al-Qaeda cave system.
Yes.
Let's just be honest. There's probably a cave system that's been turned into a series of restaurants and bars somewhere. On
Well,
this
I mean,
planet.
there's a town in Turkey that's all caves.
Yeah.
So, definitely. But it does. So that Opal's "we need to rehab your image" sales pitch to Lolth, a demon.
Which is, it's a very Opal thing, but it's not a very realistic thing.
Yeah, agreed. However, counter argument, it worked for Lucifer.
Did it though?
Yeah, the prophecy, Lucifer, the show.
Oh. Yeah.
Sympathy for the devil. I mean,
Yeah.
but, and Hell's Bells.
Yes.
Bells Hells.
Yeah, that took me a second too. Again.
I even have it written down correctly. Anyway, these things taken together, is this an undercurrent of an expression of anti-theism on Exandria?
Possibly. What I'm wondering is this going to cause trouble when they go and speak to someone who, the religious people? Like if they go to Vasselheim, or if they go, it's like I told you, I saw the thing about...
Look, I know Ayun was crippled, and you have all these secrets, but I think you're reading Lolth wrong. She's just misunderstood. She wants to help. Can you imagine what the Cobalt Soul does to that person?
Right?
No. Oh, you have a vestige. Pop, pop. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the only way my brain can sort of let it go, though, is that this is the anti-theist. Because, like, atheism in D&D largely doesn't work.
No, at all.
Because there are clerics who perform miracles, and
Like,
there are warlocks.
If
You can go to Celestia, you can
if
go to hell.
there were gods that directly intervened on Earth,
Yes.
I mean,
As George...
that would make a believer of me. That's all I'm saying.
Exactly. Exactly. Like George Carlin says, I became a sun worshiper overnight. Number one, I can see it. That's a big thing for me. Okay? Yes. But anti-theist is a whole other thing.
Yes, that's just against the system.
Yes. And I can see that as, if you wanted to be more of an atheist character in D&D, being anti-theist and being against all of them.
Yes. Which there were several people who fit that in even campaign 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, there's gods, but what are they really doing for us? Why do they deserve worship?
Yes. And mocking misappropriation of symbology is a great way to strike at that.
Yeah.
So in the sense that if you view the Chroma Conclave as servants or children of Tiamat, and you're making fun of them by turning them into a spa, I kind of buy that a little more. It's still
I kind
gauche.
of do. I
AF.
just still don't think it would fly anywhere on Taldore.
Yes, yes. Like I said, it's still gauche AF, but
because that's where they hit.
Yes.
Dwendalian Empire? Sure. They didn't touch the Dwendalian Empire.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's sort of where my brain goes.
Yeah.
And ironically, if that is the space that they're exploring, does kind of lead into what we've been talking about with the Divine Gate.
Yeah.
Because, like, the Betrayer gods want to tear it down. And Abria mentions that Lolth wants worshippers.
Mhm.
She's losing them. She's lack of them.
And really, if they want to do that and they want to rehab, Lolth wants to rehab. One, she needs to listen to Opal's notes about the appearance thing, especially on her circlet.
Yeah.
Two, she needs to do what the Chained Oblivion did, only more successfully with the Angel of Irons.
Mm.
Because while that was a fringe cult, that was accepted all the way up until the Mighty Nine uncovered who the Angel of Irons actually was.
Yeah.
Until then, it was still an acceptable cult that could exist, and no one would,
Yeah.
And that's how you got to do it. You've got to rebrand yourself not as Wolf, the Spider Queen, as an entirely different being.
But the diminishment of worship could be introduced as the means by which mortals reinforce the Divine Gate. Or build their own version of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've established that because, as Artigan said, the divine power comes from people worshiping him.
Yep. Yeah. So, the idea that more and more people are rejecting the gods could be building or reinforcing a new divine gate, or reinforcing the old one.
Yeah.
As a counterbalance.
At first it's, we're keeping us out. Now it's, we're keeping you out.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, down the line, leads to potential interesting crossways. Where maybe devils convince neutrally aligned deities that, look, we're losing the blood war down here.
Yeah.
Because we don't have power. We need to break down the divine gate. And to do that, it takes both of us.
Yeah.
But that's way down the line in a sort of grand arc of the universe kind of thing.
Campaign 7 or something.
Yeah. I think we got confirmation that should Abria return and continue to return, as has been hinted at,
Mm-hmm.
The Nameless Ones will continue to appear.
Yeah.
She has an interesting concept for that Thieves Guild, and I think it is the most exciting thing that we haven't gotten to dive into,
mm-hmm.
that Abria introduced. And now we have one of the players having a personal, emotional stake in finding out how, why, where, all of the questions that you want to answer about a faction.
Yeah, and after this two-parter, it's almost, I know we compared Ferrai and Ferret Guy to Opal and Ted.
Yeah.
Originally. But it almost seems like it's flipped now. Where Opal is literally the mean one.
Yeah.
the bitch to Ted, the insulting, the condescending,
Yeah.
the tear it down, the I don't really like you, and Ted's like, I just want to be there for you.
Yeah.
You know, why are you doing this? And Finarkai is looking, I need to find my sister, I need to save her, I love my sister, and this girl's just like, snarling, like, okay, yeah, you and me are gonna go at it.
Yeah.
And that to me is interesting in exploring, because you've got the player characters being opposite sides of that twin dynamic.
Yeah.
And
well, and Fudorai also seeing what Opal is turning into, and potentially motivated to stop that. And yeah, she's setting up so that the next time we see them and the nameless ones are there and they're infiltrating whatever, that there's potential inter-party conflict that is reflective of the external conflict, which is great long-term planning on Abria's part.
Yeah.
Them sailing off on the patio. Great way to not turn the episode into 6 hours.
I love the fireball to ignite the dynamite.
Yeah.
Best use of fireball ever. I'm not a huge fan of fireball, you know this. It's an effective spell, yes, but it is so limited in its usefulness.
Yeah. I was confused as to why the broomstone needs to be exposed.
Yeah.
Matt has always described the airships as the broomstone being exposed. But why it should require...
Yeah, and that's what confused me, because it was stated that this patio bar area was being held up there. It was anchored to the wall, but it was being supported by the broomstone anyway.
Yeah.
So why was exposing it necessary?
Yeah.
If it's already being weight supported by it in disguise, all you have to do is separate it from the wall and you can go.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless, like if you wanted control, or if there was some mechanism for controlling it,
yes,
then you'd want the stone exposed so that you could.
Yes, I believe. I know it wasn't Spelljammer, but there was a D&D with and where it might have been an early version of Spelljammer, where you were basically expending spells to make the ship do different things. If you've got it, you want to bank right, okay, well because it's usually on the airships 3, you hit the right one with a spell, and the higher level the spell, the sharper the turn. Or you want to go faster, you put it in the one in the back to push forward, Then I could see it needing to be exposed.
Yeah.
But that would have solved their propulsion problem.
Yeah.
Rather than having 3 of them jump off with flight and push.
Yeah. And I don't know how I would have handled that.
I mean, if it were me, I probably would have made it something like that. Hope you save some of your spell slots, because that's how you're piloting your new sky deck.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because the cast fly, or using fly to push it.
I mean, my brain's like, okay, that works, because if it's weightless because of the broomstone, you're moving forward, you're going to push it,
Yeah.
But, it's not ideal, because you're going, at what, flies 60 foot?
The fly spell is 60 foot, yes.
Yes, so
But Dorian's is only 30.
so you're going at 30 foot. And you're at a place in the center of town, basically.
Well,
Someone in town, even if you, I'm not talking about any issues with the major image and leaving. I'm talking about you're in the center of town and you're going at 30 feet every 6 seconds, 60 if you're doing double move. By the time you hit the edge of town, someone's going to have looked up and seen you leaving.
Yes. Yeah, which is why probably like the major image I would have done is just the sky. Just project what's above us, below us.
Yeah.
And then you have the Avengers cloaking.
Yeah.
And yes, Rose, the spell slots, I think, resource management in an encounter like that is good.
It was something in AD&D second edition. Mm-hmm. I think it was a type of Spelljammer ship, but I could be wrong. It could have been. I played so many different settings back then.
Yeah.
They had so many settings back then.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know if we got much that we can extrapolate into regular Critical Role.
Or even the next DXU, other than what you've already said.
Yeah, the Nameless.
The Nameless Seek and the Nameless Ones and the dichotomy between Fitterai and Opal.
How does Cirrus get his money back, send that money back to Wilde now?
I mean, to
pay off his
Marquette.
Or Marquette, yeah.
Well, the fact that they have that money, they have an ally in Gilmore. They can get in touch with, and in Estros, they can get in touch with the people. Hey, he's got the money. He wants to pay off his bounty. He wants to make peace and get that money to them. They have multiple ways to get that there.
Fair, yeah.
That's the easy part. That's the we don't need to play this out. This is epilogue shit type of stuff.
Yeah. I don't think Dorian's bounty is clear though.
No, that was specifically 40,000 gold for Cyrus's, because his bounty was 20, and they were told with 40 they could buy it off without having to turn him in.
Yeah,
for double basically. So that strictly clears Cyrus, but that allows him to go back home, take over the leadership, and Dorian to keep being Dorian.
Yeah,
who is the player character.
Hard out tonight because the new discussion shows tonight.
Yep. And it's once a month, so.
Yeah, and I think thanks to tax season coming to an end, and my brain is returning to, I know what day and week it is.
There we go.
The last 2 weeks,
nah, not so much.
No. But let's see. This Thursday should be
so 19.
Oh, the heist. Ironically enough, back-to-back heists on the Critical Role channel, and we will be back here next Tuesday to discuss that one.
Yep.
Take care of yourselves and each other, everybody.
Thanks.